Hey everyone, Nubkeks here, and in today's video we're talking about a brand new event that has arrived in Torghast this week in World of Warcraft Shadowlands. It's called the Beasts of Prodigum, or as I'm calling it, the Beasts of Disappointment. Because, yeah, this event, I know that you see a lot of criticism around Torghast, and one of the big pieces of criticism that people often throw, they say that Torghast, it's got good potential, but it's maybe a little bit underdeveloped, a little bit undercooked. Certainly that would be my opinion of this event in particular. That is definitely the case over here. So what is going on with the Beast of Prodigum, though? What actually is it? Well, it's the first of 3 different events which are going to be rotating through Torghast that are going to give you access to these little dogs which are going to fight alongside you, an extra little pet, and do a number of different things. So there are 3 types of dog. I have Horgle here, who is the tanking dog. So he is going to do a single target stun, and he can also taunt an enemy and help tank them, right? So you can see, for example, right here against this monstrous guardian in the background, Horgle is tanking. Now, the other things are hitting me. The other things are hitting me, but Horgle is tanking up the guardian at least. There is also another dog. In fact, I have a list of the different powers. We're going to come back to this, and shout out to Icy Veins, who made this post. They data mined and collected all this stuff. I was going through my footage and trying to take screenshots of everything. Then I found this and said, you know what? This is much smarter. Work smart, not hard. But yeah, Horgle, the Chain of Command. That's the dog, and I'll talk more about him in a second. There's also the Shade Essence lore, which gives you Valiok, who does AoE damage and silences enemies with that AoE howl attack. And then there is the Wailing Pendant, which calls forth Naltari, a soul hunter, that can howl to increase allies' combat abilities. So yeah, I believe that all of the dogs have roughly a 45-second cooldown, something like that, on their abilities. The AoE Howl to boost your combat abilities actually gives you a mini Bloodlust. It is 30% haste for 12 seconds. And like I said, I think that's on a 45-second cooldown. Certainly if you were playing in a group, I think that could be pretty nifty, actually, right, to give your whole group, a little bit of extra haste. Not too bad. I want to pause this footage right here, because I think this is hilarious, right? So set your expectations correctly for what these pets, these beasts, are going to do, because I went in with a little bit too high of an expectation, thinking I could buff up my pet, especially when we see some of these other powers. We can buff their damage, we can buff their health, and blah blah blah. This pet could be really strong. He could be doing half of the fighting, if not more, for me if I put in lots of powers. But check this out. Again, this is for Horgle. He is the tanking pet. How much damage is he actually doing in that last fight where we did over 100,000 damage? How much damage did Horgle do? None of this. Well, he comes down here at number 11 spot. His melee attacks, he did 549 damage. And even better, I don't know if this is a mistake or what, but Leaping Maul, his single target stun, it's a 6-second stun. And I believe that just ticks for 1 damage per second that the target is stunned. I assume I killed the target before the stun expired or something like that. But that did 5 damage. 5 damage. So yeah, needless to say, these beasts, they're not really going to be carrying you in terms of DPS. I also tried out the one that does the area of effect howls that do AoE damage. And again, even still, I think the most damage he did on any pull, with me putting as many powers into him as I could to boost his damage, I think he did like 8% of my damage overall in one particular pull, and I think that's because he did his howl and then the stuff died pretty quickly. So yeah, they're not doing good damage at all. They're also fairly squishy. The good news is that when your pet dies, they simply they stop and then they heal back up to full over, again, about 10-20 seconds, something like that. They heal up pretty quickly and then they come right back. So you'll never lose your pet, right? And you don't need to worry about healing them up. You don't need to be a spec that can heal. The pet's gonna come back. It's okay. But yeah, look at them as simply a perk, right? It's just, the same sort of power as any other, rare power that you might pick up. It's a nice perk. It's going to be a benefit to your run, but it's probably not even run defining. Something like getting 9% mastery or something like that. It's a nice perk, but it's not going to totally change your run. For me, again, that's slightly disappointing. But the biggest disappointment The biggest disappointment about this, we'll look at then the individual powers, and I'll give you my rankings for the powers and what you should look to pick up for these dogs. But the biggest disappointment by far, in a way that just blows my mind, these dogs, the Beasts of Prodigum event, at least as of right now, and hopefully they change this, is only available in your regular weekly Torghast wings, right? They're the wings where you go in and you do the 6-floor run. Twisting Corridors, the big 18-floor runs, which unlocked last week, no Beasts of Prodigum in there. They're not there. You can't use them. I can't even, like, what is that? I don't get it. I don't get it. It's optional content. It's optional content for optional cosmetic rewards. It's something you're supposed to be doing for fun, and then these fun new powers aren't even showing up in there, which I think is just crazy. I even didn't do all that much of the Twisting Corridors last week. I intentionally put it off thinking, well, hey, I've already done loads of Torghast. I've done, you know, my 2 Torghast wings every week on this character. I did a bunch of Torghast on the beta. I had a second character I did a bunch of stuff with. I did a bunch of runs with my girlfriend. You know, like, I've already done lots of Torghast. So Twisting Corridors is just more of the same. I'm going to go back with Beast of Prodigum, and that will spice it up, and I can go through my 8 runs, you know, hours and hours of runs, and at least I'll have these new powers to spice it up. At least as of the time of this recording, not the case. Not so. Definitely not so. Also, actually, perfect time in the recording here. We're going to jump ahead then to the end. I'm going to show you somewhere where the dogs actually are very, very useful. But this was my favorite example of the dog actually from my entire run, which is I've jumped on down here. Cool. We're going to push on. But as you can see from this nameplate up here, what has happened to my dog? He is staying up top. He's locked in combat with something up there. He is not going to come down here and help me. And obviously, as we saw, he doesn't do any damage. So, yeah, he's just going to be stuck up in combat with that for ages. They also do things, from what I can tell, they spend a lot of time chasing maw rats. Your tanking dog, my tanky dog, you know, he'll chase after maw rats when they run away instead of fighting stuff that you're actually fighting. They do some pretty weird stuff, some pretty crazy stuff. So, yeah, it's kind of living the best BM hunter dream, which is, you know, your pet AI isn't always the best. And hey, as you can see, I've got no direct control over this dog. He's going to do whatever the hell he wants to. So pet AI is definitely an issue. Let's look at some powers, then we'll jump ahead. Okay, look at these powers. I think you're going to be able to work this out relatively reasonably, but I'm going to show you, again, some of these are actually very, very, very good, and some of them are terrible. First one, Infused Flesh. Cooldown of your Maw Beast special abilities reduced by 50%. This is actually excellent. Pretty much the best thing that your pets are doing are their special abilities. The stuff they're doing outside of that, pretty rubbish. So having them do this twice as often is insane. You know, twice as many mini bloodlusts, twice as many 6-second stuns, twice as many AoE silences. Fantastic. This one is definitely worth picking up, though it is a bit rarer. Runic Etchings. The max health of your Maw Beast increased by 50%. Rubbish. As far as I'm concerned, it's rubbish. The pets have barely any health anyway. You're better off increasing your own health or whatever. Again, they never die. They just regenerate their health and then they come right back. So this, unless you've got really poor powers, would not be picking it. Hungering Anima. Your Maw Beast does double damage, 100% more damage done, but also loses 2% health every second while in combat. Rubbish. It's rubbish, right? As we saw, frickin' Torghast or whatever he's called here, he's doing like 5 damage with his stun. 5. He doesn't do any damage. So I think here we can see it again. We can see it again. Hang on. How much damage is he doing? Let's go back a few seconds here. There we go. Where is he? He's not even on the list anymore. He's down the bottom of the list. He's off somewhere. He's off. Who knows where he is? He's gone. Not even there. Rubbish. The damage is bad. This guy, Valiok, he does a little bit more damage, but again, this is probably not worth investing your powers into. Even though it's 100% increased, not worthwhile. Unless, again, you've got really bad powers apart from that. Unnatural Claws. Maw Beast strikes all enemies within 5 yards while attacking. Rubbish. Absolutely rubbish. I used it with my boy Horgul, that's his name. I used it with Horgul. I picked it up on this run thinking this would help him tank. This would help him get aggro on more stuff. It doesn't. The biggest issue is that he will charge in, taunt, and certainly for a caster, maybe this would be better if you're melee, but for me, going in as the caster, unless I go into melee, he's going to charge in, he'll taunt one of them, then the other ones are going to run right past him and come on to me. He doesn't have an AoE taunt. He's not going to have AoE threat. I thought this would help with that. It doesn't, and the damage they're doing with their melee attacks is terrible. So again, absolutely not worth taking. This sounds better than it actually is. Satchel of the Hunt. Maw Beast gives allies within 60 yards 20% more move speed. This one is actually okay. That could be pretty good, especially for speeding through your weekly Torghast runs quickly. Helps you dodge abilities. This one isn't bad. Symbiotic Essence. Now, this one is fantastic. The healing of your Maw Beast increased by 50% and also heals you as well. But Nubkeks, I hear you say. Hang on. He's got a stun and a taunt. Okay. AoE damage, AoE silence, okay. And then a mini bloodlust. They don't have any healing. Nubkeks, what are you talking about? How is this good? The way this works, and I'll show you this on the final boss very shortly after we cover these powers, is that your pet, when they run out of life, when they die, they heal themselves back up to full. So this power not only makes themselves heal themselves faster, but it also transfers all of that healing to you as well, which is an insanely strong heal. So for example, I mean, let's say that Horgle, I'm not sure how much health he has. Let's say he has 50,000 health or something like that. 50k health. When he dies, he starts healing himself for 50k over whatever 10 or so seconds. That's 50k healing to me over 10 or so seconds. That's an incredible heal. And again, he dies all the time because there's no mitigation, so you're going to get tons of healing out of it. This one is really, really good. Much better than I expected it to be. Stygian Victuals then. Stygian Victuals, I think that's how you say that word. Victuals is a bit weird. Your Maw Beast regenerates 2% of its health every 1 second while not in combat. Rubbish. Just let them die. They heal back up. It's fine. Anamnestic Memories? Who knows? Your Maw Beast's move speed is increased by 50%. It will attempt to retrieve loot for you after combat. Rubbish. Don't bother. Volatile Augury. When your Maw Beast reaches critical health, it detonates and inflicts 20% of its max health with shadow damage to all enemies within 20 yards. Stuns them for 3 seconds. Really, really good. This one is also fantastic. So again, your Maw Beasts are going to die all the time. That's okay, but it's going to do a big chunk of AoE damage. It's going to do a big chunk of AoE stun as well. And it's hitting all enemies within 20 yards. That's a massive AoE. So this one is actually really, really good. I would definitely grab this. You know, Runic Etchings becomes okay. Then you can start taking some Runic Etchings to go with Volatile Augury, so it's going to do more damage, or you can take this and combo it with the healing, so it's going to heal you for more as well. This makes Runic Etchings actually fairly worthwhile if you get those other powers, or you could take Runic Etchings hoping for either the Symbiotic Essence or the Volatile Augury. That's okay. And then finally, Collar of Teeth. Maw Beast damage done increased by 25%. This is S tier, absolutely incredible. Your stun with Horgle here, instead of doing 5 damage, it will actually do like 6, maybe even 7 if they round it up nicely. Game changer. No, don't never take this one. This one is rough. I mean, if the 100% damage done one is not worth taking, I can assure you the 25% damage done, absolutely not worth taking either. But yeah, I mean, generally speaking, as you can see here, clearing through these waves, fighting through the floors, the trash, is not all that useful. They're okay, but not great. Okay, but not great. Now, where the beast actually is incredibly good, let me skip ahead here. Let me skip ahead to the boss. Watch how useful Horgle was on the boss. This actually shocked me. So certainly if you are progressing in Torghast, if you're struggling to clear layer 8, which this is, look at that, he jumps in. This bear paw icon here, this is the stun. He just did a 6-second stun on that boss, and now he's taunting the boss. You can see his health bar over here. It's ticking down, as is the boss's. This particular boss obviously jumps on a player, which is why he targeted me. But Horgle here actually is tanking this boss pretty well. He stunned him again there for another 6 seconds. Incredible. He's taunted that boss back. I've pulled aggro now. The taunt has worn. No, sorry. Horgle died. Horgle has fallen off. But look at this. Look at my health, right? Let's watch that again. Look at that, because I totally missed it coming through here. But watch my health when Horgle dies. We'll track Horgle's health here. You'll have this purple thing around him. You're going to see these silvery white things coming, these spirit essence thing, bolts, coming from Horgle to me. And again, that is healing me for half of what it's healing Horgle, which is a huge amount of self-healing. Really, really, really strong. So again, you can see him just throwing out those stuns. taunting that boss, making this boss a lot easier than it would be. So he's dead. And look, you can see those spirit bolts already coming through from Horgle. Look at my health. Every time that hits, max health again. Max health, max health, max health. Fantastic. Even though he is dead, he's still, in a way, tanking the boss because he's keeping me fully healed. He jumps back in, another 6-second stun on that boss. Now, he does taunt the boss at the same time as he stuns them, which is maybe a bit weird in the AI. He could probably taunt after the stun expires, but he's back in. He's tanking it. You can see he's getting worn down. He's just going to die again. He's not going to live long at all. But again, once he dies here, bam, he's dead. But again, he's healing me. Look at all this healing coming through. Fantastic. My health never dipped low at all in that particular run. That is what Horgle can do. I think I'll show this to you. And again, all the dogs will sort of do this. I think Horgle is actually particularly good. Like I said, I think the Bloodlust dog is also very good. If you're more struggling with just getting through the trash, but you're doing fine. Look at that healing. Look at that. 75k. Absolutely nutty. Absolutely nuts. I think 75k is probably to himself, and then the 25k was to me. But again, like 25k healing to me is still really good. You can see his damage is completely meaningless, and I'd put some powers into his damage. 300 damage actually we got up to from his stun there on the boss. There you go. But look at that. Look at that healing. Absolutely insane. Like I said, I believe the 25k was for me. But that's still a massive chunk of healing. Absolutely massive chunk of healing compared to like Blood Gorge Leech. Completely outclasses it, and that was just with just one of these powers. So that is the strength of the dog. Let's skip to somewhere random in the middle of the run. Okay, not that random. Here we go. Cool. Or maybe we'll come to one of the later wave sections so you can sort of see how it's going. But yeah, that's sort of my thoughts on this Beast of Disappointment, in the sense that, you know, they're not insanely strong. And certainly a lot of these powers, especially the ones that up their damage, are, in my opinion, traps. They're not good. They are a bad idea. But at the same time, these dogs, they do a certain amount of things very, very well. And they can actually be a good power to add in. They can actually be pretty strong. As you saw right there, Horgle completely destroyed that boss. He was incredibly useful. So it could be very worthwhile if you are progressing. But then again, Beasts of Disappointment can't use these guys in Twisting Corridors, at least not yet. I think if they added them in, they'd be great. It would really help. Again, you could pick one, the stun guy to help with the bosses. You could pick the mini Bloodlust guy to just boost your damage, very worthwhile. Or the AoE silence to help with with just the regular trash, if that's what you're struggling with, if that's what your spec is bad. They're not bad, but they could be a lot better. Guys, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.